Come here. If I read something from the, you know what I'm going to do at Bishop Yoga?
Yeah.
If I read something from the Bhagavad-Gita, what would be a good verse? Do you have in mind? What would work with this?
Arjuna lamenting in the first handful.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking of that too. Should we do that? I mean, it feels kind of funny to do Gita. We should be doing Bhagavatam sometime. You don't remember what chapter that is, huh? What's that? I was going to sing something else. I can sing Jai Radha Madhav instead if it's better. It's okay? So this is a nice song by Lochan Das Thakur. How many of you, everybody here understands English, yes? If you don't understand what I'm saying, raise your hand. Okay, that's good. So Lochan Das Thakur is a great devotee. He's in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's a disciple of Narahari Sarkar, who was one of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates. Narahari Sarkar was the first person to start writing about the pastimes of Mahaprabhu in the form of songs. And his disciple, Lochan Das Thakur, wrote a wonderful book called Chaitanya Mangal. And he wrote many different songs about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Radha Krishna. So this is a nice song we can share together, okay? Snehalata Veditanu Kaila Seshe Snehalata Vedi Vedi Tanu Koila Seshe Kidarupe Nare Tahe Hridoye Praveshe Kidarupe Nare Tahe Hridoye Praveshe Kidarupe Nare Tahe Hridoye Praveshe Falarupe Puja Kanya Dale Bange Pade Falarupe Puja Kanya Dale Bange Pade Kalarupi Bihanga Upade Bhasha Kore Kalarupi Bihanga Upade Bhasha Kore Bharitena Paila Gacha Shukai Agela Bharitena Paila Gacha Shukai Agela Samsare Radhavanala Tahate Lagia Samsare Radhavanala Tahate Lagia It's like this. Vasandui Ute Dumaiya Durasadu Vasana Dui Ute Dumaiya Fukara Koro Elochan More Lambudia Fukara Koro Elochan More Lambudia all together. Bolo bolo again. Bolo bolo. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Bolo bolo. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Jai Vaishnav Thakur Ami Tomara Thakur Vaishnav Thakur Ami Tomara Thakur Jai Jai Prabhupada 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 Jai Prabhupada Jai Jai Prabhupada 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 Jai Tukaram Prabhu, should we read from Bhagavad-Gita or from Srimad Bhagavatam? Kind of the same similar subject. What's better? Something simple. Bhagavad-Gita is good. Okay. So we can read something to you from Bhagavad-Gita. How many of you have read Bhagavad-Gita before? Raise your hand. Okay. Okay. I want to know. I have a question from you. What is your favorite chapter in Bhagavad-Gita? You can tell me. What? Chapter 2 he likes. Anybody else? How is it we just kind of read the book but we don't have a favorite part of it? How deeply we're reading the book then? Anybody else? Do you like any part of Bhagavad Gita? Chapter 6. Very good. He's alive. Huh? Buddha Yoga. Good. Who said chapter 1? You said chapter 1. Okay. I want to read something to you from chapter 1 today. He's a strange person. Do you know that? Practically nobody likes the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. I'm a strange person because it's one of my favorite chapters. And I guess he's also strange too. Amitesh Gaur Prabhu. So let's recite the Srila Prabhupada's Mangalacharna that he gave in the Bhagavad Gita here. We can do that together. Om Jnanatimidhandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Brishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada, in his introduction to the Gita, he quotes some verses from Shankaracharya's Gita Mahatmya. And the last verse he quotes is, Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam, Eko Deva Devaki Putra Eva, Eko Mantras Tasya Namani Yani, Kamapyakam Tasya Devasya Seva. Very practical thing. Because we need something practical, isn't it? We need something practical, not just something theoretical. Huh? So Prabhupada translates this, he explains it. He says, in the present day, people are very much eager to have one scripture, one God, one religion, and one occupation. Therefore, ekam shastram devaki putra gitam. Let there be one scripture only. One common scripture for the whole world, Bhagavad-Gita. Eko devo devaki putra eva. Let there be one God for the whole world, Sri Krishna. Eko mantras tasya namani, and one hymn, one mantra, one prayer, the chanting of his name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Karmapyakam tasya devasya seva. And let there be one work only, the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, we need something practical. And let me ask you an interesting question. I think it's interesting anyway. How many of you have ever cried? Men don't like to talk about when they cry, especially as a Mataji here, but it's okay, just ignore her. How many of you have ever cried in your life? I've cried. I think it's pretty universal. How many people want to cry? He wants to cry. Why do you want to cry? Crying what?
Crying gives pleasure.
Crying gives pleasure. Does everybody agree with that? Crying gives pleasure?
Yes.
Is that why you're crying? Because you're so full, you're so happy, you get so much pleasure, that's why we cry? It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Crying is something, or lamentation, is a great subject. All the movies talk about it, all the romances are about it, right? All the songs are about that. So many things. We need something practical about that. Did you know the first chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, it's called Bishad Yoga. What does Bishad mean? Lamentation. It's a yoga of lamentation. It speaks about how we can connect with God through lamentation. That's pretty practical, isn't it? But Bishad also is a compound word in Sanskrit. Bish and Ad. Right? Bish means poison, and Ad means to accept. So it means the yoga, or the way to connect with God through accepting poison. Now, what is that poison? That poison is what we call reality. I'll tell you a little story. There's a person that I know of. He's a Prabhupada disciple. His name was Stamba. And he was going to a university in America. And he was invited one day to some party, the boys and the girls, and loud music and drinking and all that kind of stuff. He wasn't a devotee. He didn't know the devotees, didn't know anything about the devotees, but he was becoming a little philosophical. So he went to the party, and he felt kind of lonely. Isn't it a strange thing when you're in the middle of a big crowd of people and you feel lonely? Sometimes maybe some of you feel lonely all alone in school because everybody else is going in a certain direction. Everybody else just wants to have a house, get married, have 2 children, have a car, have some money, and that's the purpose of life, right? And if you ask any questions about that, if you're not into that, people don't like that. So he was sitting in this big party, all these young people. He was sitting by himself feeling lonely. And after a little while, a pretty young girl came and started talking to him. How do you like the party, and this, and talking about all kinds of important things that young girls talk about, like, I don't know, shoes and songs and important things like that. And after a while, she kind of ran out of things to say. And then it was like his turn to say something. And he turned to her very sincerely, and he said, have you ever thought about death? And her eyes got very big, and she said, you can't talk like that here. You're going to spoil the whole party. So that's the material world. If you go to school and everybody's very happy, and you say to everybody, have you all thought about death? You know, we're all going to die. You won't be a very popular person, I think. People won't appreciate it. But that's reality. And reality, no matter how discouraging it is, no matter how sad it may make us feel, reality is always preferable to illusion, no matter how cheerful the illusion may be. We should contemplate, what is the real purpose of our life? And why are we doing this IYF program? Because we want to create a revolution. And we want all of you to be part of the revolution. It's not a revolution in hairstyle. You don't have to shave your head like me. We don't even care if you wear dhoti and kurta. That's nice. If you want to shave your head, that's fine. But it's a revolution in consciousness. Because the world desperately, desperately, desperately needs that today. We have so many things. We were just speaking yesterday. I came here to Bhubaneswar the first time in 1993. I think, how many of you were alive in 1993? Raise your hand. Okay, a few persons. Things have changed a lot in Bhubaneswar since I remember when I first came, it was like shocking. You never saw someone with a rock and roll t-shirt. You never saw anyone with jeans. If you saw a girl on a bicycle, it was a scandal. Because girls didn't go on bicycles by themselves. Now that they're running on a motorcycle and they've got jeans on, tight jeans, and a heavy metal t-shirt, right? That's the thing today. And everywhere we go, everybody's buying this, drinking this, smoking this. And what is the purpose of all of it? What is our life? As one person said, the purpose of my life is to drive in my car for 2 hours every day in traffic to get to the job that I need to pay for the clothes that I have to wear for work and the house that I never stay in because I'm always at work or driving to work, and to pay for my car payments that I use for that. And that's my life. But don't be depressed. We have television. And you can forget all about your problems with that. But we need to create a revolution, because that television is not going to solve your problems. Your job's not going to solve your problems. It's not that we want to tell people don't have a job, or even that you shouldn't ever watch television or something, but we should understand what is reality. So I wanted to just go over a little bit with you some of the first chapter of the Gita. In the 21st verse, Arjuna tells Krishna, hey, Senayor Ubayor Madhye, Ratam Stapayame Chuta. Hey, Krishna, take my chariot, chalo. Now Chuta, you take my chariot. In between the two armies, because I want to see who is the enemy. Right? This is the beginning of Bhagavad-Gita. This is a story of our life. The first thing I want to know, who's my enemy? Who's my friend? What is the purpose of my life? And really, what is the use of education if we don't understand these things? We learn so many useless facts which we can't use. But how can I be a better person? How can I be peaceful? How can I be happy? And Krishna then, he took them in between the two armies, and Bhishma Drona Pramukhata Sarvesham Chamahikshitam Uvachaparta Paishaitan Samavetan Kurunati. Krishna waved his hand. Now they're right in the between both armies. He waved his hand indicating both armies. And he said, here's the enemy, Arjuna. What does that mean? The enemy is Duryodhan, right? The enemy is Dronacharya. The enemy is Karna. But he's pointing at both armies. What does that mean? And then Arjuna, he looks and sees he looks and sees his fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, so many different persons, and he sees everyone there, and Arjuna becomes very, very disturbed. And he tells Krishna that I can't do this. Natashapnam avasta tum brahmataiva chame manaha nimitani chapashyami viviparitani keshava. He said, I'm now unable to stand here any longer. I'm forgetting myself, and my mind is reeling. I see only causes of misfortune, O Krishna, killer of the Keshi demon. Prabhupada, listen to Prabhupada's purport. Very beautiful. Due to his impatience, Arjuna was unable to stay in the battlefield, and he was forgetting himself on account of this weakness of his mind. So similarly, sometimes we can't stay in the battlefield. What is the battle in our life? The battle is to understand who I am as a spirit soul, to become really fully satisfied. But there's an enemy. The enemy is my mind. And due to impatience, sometimes we can't stay. I can't do this anymore. It's too difficult. I don't like staying in IYF. They make you get up early in the morning. I am not able to talk to any girls. There's no television there. Why will I stay there? We should be patient. We want to get the fruit of something, we have to have some patience. And probably goes on to explain, excessive attachment for material things puts a man in such a bewildering condition of existence. This is our real problem. We have excessive material attachment. And Prabhupada quotes a verse from the Bhagavatam, Bhayam Vitya Abhinivesita Shat. Such fearfulness and loss of mental equilibrium take place in persons who are too affected by material conditions. Arjuna envisioned only painful reverses in the battlefield. He would not be happy even by gaining victory over the foe. The words nimitani viparitani are significant. When a man sees only frustration in his expectations, he thinks, why am I here? Everyone is interested in himself and his own welfare. No one is interested in the Supreme Self. Arjuna is showing ignorance of his real self-interest by Krishna's will. One's real self-interest lies in Vishnu and Krishna. The conditioned soul forgets this and therefore suffers material pains. Arjuna thought that his victory in the battle would only be a cause of lamentation for him. So this is Bhagavad-Gita. This is the first chapter of the Gita, and we're learning how to connect with God, how to do yoga through lamentation. It means by being honest. Arjuna, what's happening to him? He's looking out and he sees his grandfather Bhishmadev on the other side. He sees his teacher Dronacharya. He sees Ashvatthama, his friend, on the other side. He sees his cousin brother Duryodhana on the other side. And he's feeling, I'm forgetting myself. I can't do this. What's going on? This is what happens to everyone. In Sanskrit, we call this Upadhis, designations. People in the West, they talk about identity crisis. But if we think about it, our whole life is identity crisis. And we're always trying to figure out who we are. Little baby. What is the personal conception of the little baby? The little baby doesn't know its driver's license number. It doesn't even know if it's a boy or a girl. Doesn't know what a boy or girl is. Doesn't know who his parents are. But it has an identity. I am hungry. Anamoya. That's its conception. As a baby gets a little older, that's who I am. I am hungry. As a baby gets a little older, it says, oh, I'm cute. Everybody loves me. And then, this is my mother. This is my father. And the identity of the baby is based on those other personalities. How many lifetimes have we had a mother and father? And even maybe the baby was born from some other mother and given at birth to some other parents. The baby, it doesn't really know that's my mother and father, but that's how it identifies. And then as a baby gets a little older, then I'm a student. That's what I am. I'm a pretty girl. That's what I am. And this is my boyfriend. That's part of my identity. And then she gets a little older. I'm a married woman. That's my identity. I'm married. And my identity depends then on my husband, because if you don't have a husband, how can you be a married woman? If you don't have a teacher, how can you be a student? If you don't have a mother or father, how can you be a daughter? All of our identities of ourself are based on external things. And then she thinks, I'm a mother. I have a baby. But what if the baby dies? And this is what Arjuna's going through. He's placing his identity in so many other persons. This is my grandfather. That's part of me. And if my grandfather dies, if my mother dies, it's not just that person who's gone, it's part of my identity. And this is the existential crisis that Arjuna is facing in the beginning of the Bhagavad-Gita. It's really, who am I? And because he's identifying with the body, he's identifying with the bodies of his relatives, he's feeling so much anxiety. And he begins to lament. And finally, he tells Krishna, I'm going to commit suicide. And he puts down his weapons and just let them kill me. I knew a person in Los Angeles who one day he went to the police station and he looked a little funny the way he was moving, and he had his hand in his pocket, and he came like kind of a heavy way toward the police, and the police said, hey, take your hand out of your pocket. And he wouldn't do it. And the police said, take your hand out of your pocket now. And he wouldn't do it. Finally the police pulled their gun. Take your hand out of, and he wouldn't do it. And he kept coming at them. And finally the police shot and killed him. He had nothing in his pocket. But he wanted to kill himself. So in America they have an expression for that. They call it death by cop. Death by policeman. Someone wanted to kill themselves, so they used the police. So this is Arjuna. Death by cop. Let them kill me. Because I don't want to live. Because what is the use of me living if I have to destroy my relatives who are part of me? If we contemplate on things, everybody cries in this world. The baby cries. We cry when we come into this world, right? As soon as you're born, you start crying. And when you're leaving your body, you're also crying. My wife, my children, now I'm losing them. And everybody around you cries. So we cry in the beginning, we cry at the end. And throughout our life we cry. But most people don't appreciate that crying. If we contemplate the subject matter, we can understand there's actually 3 types of crying. Just crying in ecstasy. It's called Asta Satvikara Bhav. And some great saint may be crying just out of love for Krishna. Sometimes Radharani is crying. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was crying for Krishna. That's a very, very high thing. There's another type of crying, which is a crying of the conditioned soul who feels sorry for himself. Just like you may know some person, sometimes we see some men are very rough and they beat their wife, or they beat their children. And they're a bad person. They've done some bad things. But they can't deal with that identity. They can't look in the mirror and see who they are. So to forget that, they drink alcohol. Or they take drugs or something. To forget what a badmash, what a bad person they are. That kind of crying is very destructive. And this is the kind of crying that Arjuna is posing as. Better that they just kill me. But Arjuna does a good thing. He takes shelter of Krishna. And he uses that crying, the same feelings that he has, he channels that to Krishna. And therefore it becomes yoga. Bishad yoga. And in the 2nd chapter of the Gita, Sanjaya, he introduces Krishna's words. He says, Vishidantam idam vakyam uvacha madhusudana. Now Krishna is about to speak uvacha madhusudana. He's going to speak the Bhagavad-Gita. He's going to give all this timeless knowledge, which is a solution for problems in this world. And what has evoked that Bhagavad-Gita? Vishidantam idam vakyam. The Vishad, the lamentation that Arjuna spoke. Vishidantam idam vakyam uvacha madhusudana. That's yoga. Arjuna on his side, he began to cry. And Krishna responded in his way. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada, in the record album, which the Beatles got, John Lennon and George Harrison, they made one record album of the Hare Krishna mantra, and Prabhupada gave an explanation of the Maha Mantra, and he said, this chanting is exactly like the cry of a child for the mother. Now that's not like the lamentation of a material person. And it's not either like the ecstatic crying of a liberated soul. This is our 3rd type of crying, which my Guru Maharaj called Atma Krandana, or the crying of the soul, where we're trying to understand who am I. We've tried so many things. We've tried so many shoes. We've tried so many dresses. People go to the shopping mall to purchase an identity. Right? Today I think I'm going to buy a leather coat and some chains. And I'm going to be like a heavy guy. Right? And the next thing I know, I think I'll buy some jeans and I'll just be a cool kind of guy. And then another time I'll buy a suit and tie. And I'll be like a lawyer or this or that. When I was a little boy, we used to play games. We'd dress like a policeman. We'd dress like a scientist. We'd dress like this and that. And we would make believe. But isn't that what people are doing in this world today? And who really are we? Our identities are all based on something else. Our identities are based on the people around us. If I ask you who you are, you may say, well, I'm Oriya. Are you really Oriya? What does it mean to be Oriya? What is someone, I have some friends, they're living in America. They're from Bhubaneswar. And they have a daughter and son, and they're born in America. Now they speak Oriya in the house. Are they Oriya? They're born in America. They have brown skin. They speak Oriya language. Once I was invited to give a talk at Utkal University. They had an international symposium on business and ethics. And I felt that they asked me to speak. And I thought, what am I going to say? I'm a Hare Krishna devotee. I'm not good at business. I don't know anything about business at all. So I stood up in front of all these international scholars. It's a little hard. If you ever have to do some public speaking, it's not always easy. And I looked out at them and I got a little inspiration. I told them, I said, isn't this a funny thing? Here I am, a Bideshi. And I'm standing in front of all of you, wearing a dhoti and kurta, and about to say something to you about Bhagavad-Gita. And here you are, you're all Deshi Janas, and you're wearing pants and shirt, and you're here to talk about business. Isn't that a funny thing? So we should think about our identities. Yeah? Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada explained, is a natural condition. It's not something that we impose on the mind. But just by chanting naturally, we'll come to understand who we are. That's called Atma Krandana. That's the crying of the soul. And we can do that crying in any sphere of life. You can be a professor, you can be a big businessman, you can be a Hare Krishna devotee, you can be whatever. But the revolution that we want in the world, we want people to begin to cry and chant the holy names of the Lord. Instead of crying, he's crying because he lost his girlfriend. Right? No? He's crying because everybody's crying because but then he doesn't feel bad because there's another girl and she also likes him, and then he goes to be with her, but then she tells him after, well, actually, I'm sorry, I don't really like you. And then he cries again, but then he sees another girl and he has some hope. This is our life. We're constantly being smashed. We're constantly suffering, being put in a crying condition, and that's why everybody writes those songs. She loved me, she left me, I cried. And so everybody writes those songs because everybody goes through that. But why isn't everybody just killing themselves? Some of them are, but because they have some hope that next time will be different. This girl, she'll be different than the other ones. But it's never really different. So we need to become hopeless. And that's called Atma Krandana. When we think there is no hope, there's just no hope in the material world for enjoyment. But people think there is because of Maya. I think I spoke about this before when I was here last year or something. If you ask Prabhuji what he likes about that girl, what do you like? He may say, Prabhu, it's the way her hair looks when the sun comes through her hair. It's so nice. Huh? Well, that's nice. Eh? He's spending a lot of money on that girl, on movie tickets, on chocolate, on presents and different. You can save your money. Just buy a wig and hang the wig in the window. Right? So you'll get your happiness. And he said, no. It's not that I like the feel of her skin. Oh, it's very nice. Okay. Instead of spending so much money, you take her on a hot day to the ocean, to the beach, and then she'll get some sunburn, and then the skin peels off, and then you collect her skin in a bag, in a plastic bag. And whenever you miss your sweetheart, you can rub the bag. It's very nice. Right? What is it that we love about her? There's something in the mind that's going on. Everyone wants some affection. In the Hare Krishna movement, we have a 16-word Maha Mantra, right? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. But I've noticed in the material world, people have a 3-word Maha Mantra. And our Maha Mantra, we consider you can achieve all perfection by chanting this mantra. And similarly, so in the outside world, they have this 3-word Maha Mantra. And they consider this mantra, if you just hear the mantra, you can get all perfection. And what is that mantra? I love you. Right? If you hear someone who tells you, I love you, then immediately you get on the phone. Do you know what he told me today, the girl? He said, I love you, and she feels so happy like that. But there's 3 problems with that mantra. The first problem is, I don't know who I am. So how can I say I love you if I don't know who I am? It's a little strange, right? Huh? The second problem is, I don't know what love is. I know what lust is, but I don't really know what is real love. What is sneha, man, pranaya, rag, anurag, bhav, ruda mahabhav, adi ruda? There's a science of love. There's many different stages of love. And divine love is very different from mundane love. Divine love has three characteristics. It's ahoitaki. It has no motivation. It's not that, hey baby, I love you, because of the way she looks. That's stul deha priti. You have some affection for her body. But how deep is that affection? It's 1/16 of an inch thick. That's how thick her skin is. And if someone throws acid on her, you don't love her anymore. So that's conditional love. It's hoitaki priti. And better than that, someone may have some sukshma deha priti. Some priti, some affection for something sukshma, a little subtle. She likes to play chess. She likes classical music. I like classical music. I like to play chess. It's very, very good. But then one day she comes to see you and she says, I don't like chess anymore. Now I like mud wrestling. And I don't like classical music anymore. Now I like punk rock. And your heart gets broken. Because you placed your love on something which is not permanent. And you placed your love on something which has some motivation. You're loving her because of those things. We want to understand what is Atma Priti, love for the soul. And that love is ahoitaki. It has no motivation. And because it's apratiyata, it never finishes. The love in the material world, it always has a beginning and an end. But spiritual divine love is ahoitaki, apratiyata, yayatma suprasidati. It fully satisfies the heart. We feel fully satisfied with that. But in the material world, where is the satisfaction? We never get enough. I want something more. I want a better car. I want a prettier girl. I want a bigger house. I want more children. I want nicer clothes. I want this thing and that thing. Yehi samsparshaja boga duko yonaya evati adyantavanta kuntaya nateshu ramate Buddha. Krishna says in Gita that a wise man doesn't try to enjoy those kind of things. Because you're never satisfied. You just want more and more and more. And it just causes you unlimited suffering and misery. That's why we want to create a revolution. We want to help create sadhus. Real sadhus. Not just someone who dresses up in a costume and wants your money. Not just a panda who wants to push you to give more donations so you can have darshan of Jagannath or something. But someone who's really a genuine saintly person. Like your grandparents maybe, or your great-grandparents. We had that culture in India. I've seen, especially the older ladies, and they're always chanting Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad-Gita every day. There was a certain standard. You can't come in the house unless you take a bath. Coming from the outside, you have to behave in a certain way. When you're going to school, some of my older friends here in Orissa told me, now I think it's different now, but if you even looked at a girl, it would be a big scandal. They had that culture. They had that understanding that it's a serious thing to be friends with a girl, to be married to someone. It's a serious thing. It's a serious commitment. But we're losing that. And people are just trying to think how they can enjoy themselves in an external way. And it's causing them unlimited suffering, unlimited misery. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate. From that material enjoyment comes dukkha yonaya eva. It gets unlimited misery. But someone who's a pandita, someone who's a wise person, they don't go for that. They're not paying attention to all the commercials on television. They want you to be a good consumer. And they say there's a problem with the economy. What is the problem with the economy? You're not buying enough things. You're not buying enough toys. Because, as the saying goes in America, whoever dies with the most toys wins. You win the game if you have the most toys. You have the nicest computer, the most cell phones. But those things never give us happiness. What is it called, Krishna Kun? They make those things to be broken. Planned obsolescence. After World War II, this is an interesting historical point. This is not a Hare Krishna point. You can look at this in the history books. America made a lot of money off of World War II, making bombs and weapons and things like that. People don't talk about that, but they made a lot of money. And the big businessmen were concerned now, what are we going to do? How are we going to keep the ball rolling so we can make lots of money? And there was a problem. You see the light bulb over there? How long will that light bulb last if you leave it burning? How long will the light bulb last? Can anybody say? 1 year maybe. Do you know, in America, in San Francisco, there was a fire station. Every year they'd have a birthday party for a light bulb. And that light bulb had been turned on, it had been going for over 100 years. Same light bulb, over 100 years. Because that's the way they originally made them. They can make light bulbs that'll last 200 or 300 years. But they decided that's not a good idea. Because if we make them, they'll last for your whole life and you can give them to your children and your grandchildren, then you're not going to buy a lot of things. And how are we going to make money? So they called it planned obsolescence. How long is my cell phone going to last for? And I spend a lot of money on this stupid thing. And it causes me so much anxiety. They can easily make a cell phone that'll last 100 years. But if they do that, then you're only going to buy one cell phone in your whole life. So they're using us. But people don't like to hear that. Don't speak like that. You're going to spoil the whole party. You'll ruin the whole mood of everything. People like to be consumers. People are so foolish in the world today. We need a revolution. A revolution in consciousness. A revolution in our attitude. And it comes by learning the simple art of crying for Krishna. Because we all cry. We started off with that Krishna. Everybody cries. We cry when we come into the world, and we cry when we're leaving the world. And in between, our whole life is crying. But we don't like to identify with it. But Bishad Yoga means I identify with it. I accept the suffering that goes on. And that's the mood of a wise person. In the Bhagavatam, it says, Tatenu kampam susamikshamano. That we should accept whatever bad things are coming. It's my fault. I deserve it. Actually, I probably deserve even worse. That's a sadhu. That's a wise person. We need more wise persons who are not just being cultivated to be good consumers and not think and just work hard to make money and buy all kinds of junk that you're just going to throw away. What is the number one product in the world today that's created? Can anybody say? I think we may have asked this question before here too. What is the number one product that's created in the world today? Anybody? You guys all buy things, you live in the world. What's the number one product? Out of everything in the world, what's the biggest, most produced item? Come on, make a guess.
I remember.
Okay, don't say that. Some people say cars. Sometimes girls say makeup. Some people say it's cell phones. No. The number one thing that we create in the world today is garbage. Isn't it? Am I wrong? It's a fact. We have a garbage culture. Because they want you to just work hard and be slaves. We think, there's no more slaves in the world today. But we're creating everyone to be slaves. To just work hard to be a good consumer and buy a new cell phone every 2 or 3 years because I have to have it. If I don't have a cell phone, none of the girls are going to take me seriously. My friends will make fun of me. And how will I stay in touch with things? How will I have Netflix? How will I be able to see the news? How will I be on WhatsApp? How will I be on Facebook? I have to have that thing, right? We think, and then I have to buy a new one every 3 years. And you have no choice because you're a slave. But it's a soft kind of slavery. Right? We don't really think we're a slave, but we're being slaves. We're being controlled by these people. They can make a light bulb that'll last a whole lifetime. They can make a car that'll last for 200 or 300 years easily. They can make cell phones and computers that'll last for a whole lifetime, but they don't. Because they want all of us to keep very busy working so those big people can make lots of money. So we should think about this. We should think about the purpose of our life. Because everybody in this world, they're crying because of their phones. If I drop my phone and it breaks, the thing cost me 10,000 rupees, right? I cry. It's a very depressing thing. Yehi samsparsha bhoga dukkha yonaya evate. Because I have some attachment for material sense gratification, it causes me unlimited misery. But we have to learn what is reality. A sadhu is someone who can deal with reality, who understands the temporary nature of this world and how everybody is suffering. And that person, that wise person, he learns the art of Atma Krandana, or crying for Krishna. I want to finish with a story. How many of you have been to Jagannath Puri? I think pretty much everybody here. Okay, you've all had darshan of Patit Pavan Jagannath. Huh? We did some research a few years ago about the history of Patit Pavan Jagannath. He was established, they say, in the 1700s by Ramachandra Dev. And he was the king of Puri. And one day, one of his ministers came running into him and said, Maharaj, there's a big problem. There's a Muslim general named Taki Khan coming with an army on his way to Puri to break the temple, break the deity of Lord Jagannath, and to kill all the pandits and devotees. So Maharaj Ramachandra Dev was how many people in the army? It's a big army. So there was some fighting, some battle. Neither side won. Many people were killed. Finally, Taki Khan, he sent a message to Ramachandra Dev. And he said, Maharaj, I feel very bad. So many people are unnecessarily dying. We should have a meeting and discuss how to have peace. And so Ramachandra Dev went to the meeting, but it was a trick. It was a trap. And Ramachandra Dev killed all of his bodyguards. Taki Khan killed all of his bodyguards and captured Ramachandra Dev. He put him in the Barabati fort. You've been to the Barabati fort in Cuttack? It's no longer present. There's a few walls or something. There was a prison there. He put him in that prison of the Barabati fort for 1 year and a day. And after 1 year, Taki Khan came to Ramachandra Dev, who was suffering in that prison, and told him, he said, Maharaj, you know, I've been thinking more about things, and I feel bad. You're here suffering in the prison. I'd like to let you out. And not only that, I've thought about it. I'd like to reinstate you as the king of Puri. Would you like that? And Ramachandra Dev doesn't trust him, right? He said, I would like that. And Taki Khan said, not only that, I'd like to promise you that I won't disturb Lord Jagannath. Would you like that? Ramachandra Dev said, yes. And Taki Khan said, just one little thing that I want. You have to agree to become a Muslim. Wear a tagiya, a Muslim hat, and you should accept a Muslim wife, Fatima. He ended up marrying a girl named Fatima. And Ramachandra Dev, he agreed, thinking, let me make this sacrifice for Jagannath, to protect Jagannath, to protect the devotees in Orissa, in Jagannath Puri. He made a great sacrifice. And he agreed to become a Muslim. So he put on that tagiya. He had his Muslim wife now, Fatima. And he went to Kurda, where his palace was. And when he arrived at the palace, the gates were closed. Ramachandra Dev knocked on the gate. Hey, it's me, open up the gate. Ramachandra Dev had many, many wives. It was a common thing amongst the Rajas, right? He had many wives. And they were very happy to hear their husband, his voice. He said, they let me out of prison. I've come home. They were so happy. They opened the doors and they see this thing on his head. What is that thing on your head? Who is this girl next to you? And Ramachandra Dev said, well, there's something I have to tell you. He said, I did it for Lord Jagannath. I did it for all the people in Orissa to save them. I agreed to become a Muslim. I had no other choice. Now those girls, they come from Kshatriya families. Kshatriya families. They're very powerful ladies. And when they heard their husband, now he'd become a Muslim, they said, we're leaving you. I'm going home to my father. And they took their children with them. So think about that. This is what you get for joining the Hare Krishna movement. You lose your wives, you lose your children. He did something for Lord Jagannath. And what was the result of that? He ended up crying and crying. You lose one girlfriend, you cry. Isn't it? One girlfriend and you cry. He lost so many of his wives and so many of his children. He must have cried and cried. But anyway, he said, it's okay. I have my friend Amritesh Gaur. I'm going to go to see him. And so he went to his friend's house and knocked on the door. Hey, it's me, Ramachandra Dev. Open up. And the voice came from the other side. I know it's you, Maharaj. You're not my friend anymore. Go away. You became a Muslim. What a terrible thing. But then Ramachandra Dev thought, all right, I've lost my wives, I've lost my children, I've lost my friends, everyone hates me, but I still have one person. Who is that? Jagannath. So he went to Puri and he came to the Jagannath Mandir, but when he was starting to go inside, he said, two words, which are the words I know the best in audio language because I always hear them. Hey, probation shade. That's what I always hear. And he said, hey, it's me, Ramachandra Dev, the king of... We know who you are, Maharaj. But you married a Muslim girl. Probation shade. Now you can't come inside the temple anymore. You talk about an existential crisis that Arjun's going through. His wife, his family, his brothers and sisters, everyone's rejected him, his friends, everyone hates him. And he goes to take shelter of Lord Jagannath because he did this for Lord Jagannath. And Lord Jagannath won't let him in the temple either. So what could Ramachandra Dev do? He came. He started coming to Puri at night by horse. And he would come in front of the Jagannath Mandir and he would lay in the dirt in the street. Do you know, by the way, Grand Road in Jagannath Puri, it used to be the biggest road in all of India before the freeways and things. Do you know that road was built by the grandfather of my friend Krishnabhishek Prabhu, disciple, ISKCON devotee, disciple Tamal Krishna Maharaj. That road was originally paved before it was dirt. Anyway, at the time of Ramachandra Dev, it was made out of dirt. And Ramachandra Dev, he came there at night, and what did he do? Vrindavan Das Thakur describes in Chaitanya Bhagavat, a nice verse. I can sing this, and you can chant Hare Krishna in response. Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Yoga Dana, Bhakti Yehi Krishna Nama Smarana Krandana Bolo, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Yoga Dana. Bhakti is the real wealth. Bhakti is the real wealth. Bhakti is the real wealth. Why are you working so hard, going to school, trying to get all this money? Bhakti is the real. He says, okay, all right. Leave me alone, right? What is Bhakti? Bhakti A Krishna Nama. Bhakti is Krishna's name. But Smarana, we should think of Krishna when we chant his name. And Krandana, we should cry. That's Atma Krandana, the crying of the soul. So Ramachandra Dev came and he started just standing there in the dirt, in the road with the dogs outside the temple. He can't go inside. Everybody hates him. His parents won't accept him. His brothers and sisters, his family members, his wives have rejected him. His friends have rejected him. He can't even go inside the Jagannath temple. He's just standing there and crying every night. Until finally, like Arjun, it just became too much for him. There's a saying in America book, no man is an island. Who can be completely separate from everyone? How long can Ramachandra Dev live like that? So one night, it was just too much. And he was laying there in the dirt, just laying on the ground crying and making the ground muddy with his tears. And he decided, better that I kill myself. Better that I die. What's the point of living? Nobody wants me. Nobody appreciates me. Even Jagannath has rejected me. He's laying there on the ground crying. And suddenly he heard a voice. Maharaj, I never forgot you. You're my dear devotee. And he looked up. And who did he see? But Lord Jagannath. And then he really started crying. A different kind of crying. A crying of happiness that the Lord cares about him. The next morning, when the Pandits came to wake up Jagannath in the morning, they found a trail of doyana leaves and flowers from Jagannath's altar to the outside of the temple. They couldn't figure it out. What is this? How do these flowers and things coming? And every morning, they started finding it because Jagannath was coming outside the temple every night to give darshan to Ramachandra Dev. And finally, Jagannath appeared in the dream of the head Panda. His name was Mahalakshmi Panda. Came to him in a dream, this happened in the 1700s, and told him, I'm not happy the way you people have been treating my devotee, Ramachandra Dev. I want to give my darshan to him. I want you to make a deity of me and put it outside the temple. And that's how Patik Pavan came. And that's Bishad Yoga, the yoga of lamentation. When we learn the art of crying for Krishna, the art of crying to understand who I am, Atma Krandana, that's a kind of yoga. And we link with God. So we want to make a revolution. And we want all of you to be part of that revolution. To help people to learn to cry for God. Not to learn to cry for cell phones and girlfriends and cars and all the junk, all the crap they want us to purchase in the material world. But to learn to cry, to understand who we are. And that's why we're doing these programs. We want to create a revolution. Okay? I'm going to stop there. We went a little over time. Sorry. Is there time for some discussion? Okay. So I want to make a little other comment. You guys are used to classes, right? You go to class in the university, in the college. Huh? Krishna Katha is not a class. Sometimes we call it that. We say Prabhuji is going to give class, but it's actually not a class. In the Christian churches and things, we have what we call sermon. Sermon means you stand there and you tell everybody they're all in Maya and they should give money to the church. That's a sermon. Krishna Katha is not a sermon. Another type of katha that we see is on television, right? The commercials. You should buy this, or we should convince you of this. Krishna Katha is also not like a commercial to sell something. But Krishna Katha in the Bhagavatam, it says, Parasparana Kathanam Pavanam Bhagavad-Gita Mita Rate Mitastushtya Navita Mita Atmana. That it's meant to be paraspara, back and forth. You go to the university, the college, and they just tell you some things, and you write it down because you want to get good grades. You want to memorize what they're saying. But bhakti's not like that. It's not that we just memorize some things. Oh, that was a nice story. I like that. What was that shloka? Let me memorize that shloka. That's for information. But when there's paraspara, there's some back and forth. When we begin to think about it, yeah, you know, I really like that. There's my dear friend and God uncle, Vaisheshika, who says, he asked the question, who won a prize? Did anybody win a prize today? What is the prize? The prize is that you got something from the talk that you liked, something valuable. And so if you repeat that, the prize, if you say, I got this prize, this is the thing that I got, then you get to keep it. But if you don't identify it, then maybe you'll get to keep it, maybe you won't. You'll forget about it. That's paraspara. So if there's anything that somebody liked in our talk, one of my great jokes, perhaps, or our singing, or some philosophy, or some particular point, what was it that you liked? Share that with us. Or maybe it reminds you of something else. This reminds me of what my mother used to say, or my grandmother. Or maybe you have a question. That's paraspara. And that's what we want to have in IYF. We don't want to just make you into a bunch of robots, right? But Hare Krishna, 16 rounds down, I have done this, put down my beads. And we're not here to make robots. But we want people to think. And that begins with Bishad Yoga, the yoga of lamentation. So anybody have any reflections? Any thoughts of it? Amritesh Gaur Prabhu.
One point I like that it will be that really we are not happy, we cannot be happy in this world, but hardly we come to understand their situation. You started off with saying how Arjun accepted that I am not happy. Arjun accepted that this situation is not making me happy. But hardly we tend to think in this way. We just try to take some temporary things and try to be happy in this.
I mean, you talk to someone, right? Their car the engine just blew up. And they have to have a major repair. They just lost their job. Their mother died last week and they broke their leg. And you ask them, how are you doing? How's it going? Yeah, it's okay. Everything's fine. Your whole life's miserable. But we're trying to convince ourselves constantly. And all the media is trying to convince us, they're trying to brainwash us with this idea that actually everything is okay. But we should become a sadhu. We want all of you to become sadhus and deal with reality.
And then Prabhupada also pointed out this in the bhajan, Vrindavan.
Yes.
That nice thing. When you are sitting on the bed also you are sleeping, very nice line is there, I'm forgetting. Prabhupada said, even if somebody is lying on the bed in ICU and you go and meet him, how are you? How are you feeling? I'm feeling good. Although everybody can see he is lying down in hospital and he is saying I'm feeling good. You don't realize that we are not happy. And this thing I also like about this mantra of this world, which is I love you, although we know that is a mantra, but we don't know what this mantra really means. I do not understand this point. What is the problem you told with this mantra? 3 things you told, but I got 2 things. One thing is that we don't know who we are really. What is the meaning of real I? We don't know. Another thing is what is the meaning of love.
And the third thing is, I don't know who you are. Maybe you're a gopi in the spiritual world or a cowherd boy, but I don't know who you really are. So, and I don't know who I am. I just know this temporary body, and I don't know really what love is. So there's 3 problems with this mantra. I don't know who I am, I don't know what love is, and I don't know who you are. So the whole thing doesn't really mean anything, does it? I'm sorry to disturb anybody. All right. Thank you, Amritesh. Do you have something? Speak loud.
You mentioned about the 3 kinds of crying.
Uh-huh.
I just wanted to know that what are those 3 kinds?
What are those 3 kinds of crying? Okay, 3 types of lamentation. One person feels sorry for themselves. I feel very bad. I'm a child molester. I'm a robber. I'm a thief. And I got caught. And I feel very bad that I got caught. I feel very bad that I'm being punished. I feel sorry for myself. That's one type of lamentation, which is very destructive. It's not helpful at all. Another type of lamentation is a lamentation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's crying, Kotai Krishna, Kotai Krishna, where is Krishna, where is Krishna? He's crying and crying in ecstasy of love. That's another type of lamentation. And the third type is Atma Krandana. Crying to understand who I am as a soul. And that's what we want to teach people. We want to teach people. Guru Maharaj said, we want to open a crying school here in Bhubaneswar. You're all going to school. Huh? This is another school. The school teaching us how to cry. What's really worth crying for. Because I'll tell you honestly, that girl's not worth crying over. Your cell phone's not worth crying over. All those things you're crying for, they're really not worth crying for. Huh? And if we are crying for those things, then we should channel it. We should channel it in the way that, oh Krishna, why am I so attached to my body? Why am I so attached to a stupid cell phone that I'm crying over a cell phone? Please help me. Help me. Is that okay? Anybody else with anything? Prabhuji?
Our whole life is identity crisis. And if we go to shopping mall to buy an identity.
I can buy a cowboy hat. I can be from Texas in America. Or I can buy some Chinese clothes or Japanese clothes, or I can buy a dhoti and kurta, or I can buy leather clothes, and I buy my identity. That's good. But it's like a costume party. Have any of you ever dressed up in a costume before? Huh? You have a rubber mask or something on your face. Well, people's life is like a costume party. Only what happens if you go to the costume party and you forget to take off your mask, and you really think that's you. I'm a princess. I'm a pirate. I'm a whatever it is you're wearing the mask of, and people think like that. This is the material world, and we all have so many different masks that we're putting in front of us, and we can't let them down. We can't see who we really are. You had something, Tukaram Prabhu?
Yeah. Discouraging reality is always preferred over cheering reality.
It's a good motto.
What did you say?
That
Discouraging reality is preferred over cheering religion.
Prabhuji.
First of all, we started revolution in consciousness.
Sorry?
Revolution in consciousness we started.
Yeah, revolution in consciousness.
We highlighted about existential crisis. That we give the example of Arjuna. Arjuna was in existential crisis. He took the center of Lord. At the same time, Ramchandra Dev also was in existential crisis. He took the center of Lord. So, the point, I have one question to you. Just like we are staying with devotees, some misunderstanding happens. It's like we have a good intention sometimes, and the result and something bad bounce back in a wrong way. So how deal with such situations, and what is the solution?
We should be antarmukh, not bahirmukh. We should be internal, not external. And let's not judge you because you have a dhoti and kirtan. He's a nice devotee. He has a dhoti and kirtan and kuntimal and tilak. And this fellow over here, no tilak, no dhoti, not good. He's good, he's not good. But he may be very good, he may be very bad. Right? And it's not just about the way that we dress. We like that dress, maybe that's nice. But we should be thoughtful. And so similarly, when we see someone do something, maybe I don't really understand. Maybe it's just hard for them. Maybe they're making a mistake. Have you ever made a mistake before? I've made so many mistakes. And when I make mistakes, I'm hoping Tukaram will forgive me and be my friend. I'm hoping my wife will still love me in spite of the fact I made a mistake. I did something wrong. That's what real friendship means. That's how we treat children. If every time a child made a mistake, the child's learning to walk, and the child falls down, and you start making fun of the child. Nonsense! What kind of walking is that, you stupid idiot? How will the child grow up? The child wants to draw something on the wall, and he makes some... You think, what kind of garbage is that? That's not art. Yeah. Nonsense rascal. You forgive the child. You love the child. So we should also be like that with us, because that's what we want. I'm always looking for someone who will forgive me for all my mistakes and faults. That's why I like Tukaram Prabhu. He likes me in spite of all my faults. That's why I like my wife. That's what love means. In spite of the fact that I'm a jerk, that I'm an idiot, I'm a boka, I do so many bad things, still that person likes me. That's love. We're looking for that. Why don't we become that? Why don't we forgive other people? And if you don't have the position of being the judge of others, don't take it upon yourself. Don't do that. Is that helpful? Prabhuji?
You said about the present educational system. So it's really that most of the things we study in the schools and universities don't really help us in the present situations in our life. So we see in daily news is that the so-called professors of the universities they are committing suicides and they are unhappy in their real lives.
That's why we want to create a revolution. How many people here have had a member of your family, maybe your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, a cousin, a nephew, a niece, whatever. How many of you had someone that you know in your family or a friend who's been very, very depressed or maybe even suicidal? Raise your hand. Does anybody know anybody? Nobody here has anybody who's depressed? Everybody, we all know someone who's very depressed. And then they're going to come to you, and what are you going to tell them to solve their problem? You're going to say, well, computer programming. I learned about the C language, C++, and this will solve your problem. Is that what you're going to tell? When your brother comes to you and he's very, very depressed and unhappy, you tell him, I learned C++ in school, and this will solve your problem. It's not going to solve his problem. But you can tell him, Bhagavad-Gita, Bishad Yoga, the first chapter. This is a revolution that we want. We want people who can help other people. And C++ is not going to help other people. Is that the common language today in India? I don't know. Okay. So it says C++ is not going to solve their problems, but Bhagavad-Gita will. And that's what we want to share with everyone. Is that helpful? Anything else from anybody? Even you don't have to agree. Sometimes it's more fun. But mainly people should think, and we shouldn't be blind followers. I don't like blind followers. Even I don't like Hare Krishna blind followers. Just because Tukaram tells you to do this and that, you don't have to do it. You can say, I don't believe in that. I don't accept that. You should challenge him. He's difficult to defeat, though. You know, before, when I was in high school in America, I was a captain in my debate team. And I was such a good debater, I never lost one single debate. And sometimes I would go to the debate and they would see me and they'd become frightened. And they'd go, oh my God. I was good at debate. And then years later, I started going to the temple in New Orleans. It was Mardi Gras time. I was in New Orleans for Mardi Gras. And I started going to the temple, the Hare Krishna temple, because I was a vegetarian. And the devotees would come and start preaching to me, and I would argue with them. And for the first time, they started defeating me. I couldn't defeat their arguments. So I kept going, taking the nice prasadam and arguing with them. And after some time, I became a Hare Krishna, because if you can't beat them, you join them, right? So that's what happened. But we should have thinkers, not just be dull and just sit and listen to something in a passive way. But if you don't agree with something, say so. If something doesn't make sense, be a live person. Okay?
Let me the story you told Ramchandra was spending his life in Patipam Jagannath. So after that, his descendants are now Gajapati Maharaj in Puri, or
I don't know the exact lineage, but I think the descendants of the king in Puri now are not descendants of Maharaj Prataparudra. Maharaj Prataparudra, all his children were killed by his minister who wanted to take over, and later they had a new line. And I think Ramachandra Dev's in that new line. That's only the 1700s. So I think Maharaj Jibya Singh Dev, our current king of Puri, I think he's in the line of Ramachandra Dev. Yeah, as far as I understand. Okay, so thank you all very much. I hope that when you guys come to Jagannath Puri sometimes that we can get to see you something, come visit our ashram, so maybe we can go and do some parikrama together or something, have some Krishna Katha together. Anyway, I just want to thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Binda ki jai, Gopremanandi Hari Hari Bol, Vancha Kalpadurubhischa, Kripa Sindhu Vyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Nandakoti Vaishnava Binda ki jai.